Charlie Kirk's death didn't just shake the right. It exposed who's real, who's fake, and who's desperate to take his throne. And trust me, what's happening now is wild. Since Charlie Kirk's passing, a noticeable gap has opened within the conservative media universe, a space that, whether people want to admit it or not, Kirk helped shape in a unique and influential way. His death didn't just mark the end of an era for Turning Point USA or for the campus conservative movement he championed. It left a vacancy in the influencer hierarchy that many now seem eager to fill. And like with any power vacuum, the scramble began almost immediately. Commentators, activists, and media personalities are watching closely, maneuvering publicly and privately, aware that the conservative audience, especially the young, energetic crowd Kirk cultivated, now seeks a new central figure to rally around. So the question becomes, who rises next? Who steps into that spotlight as the next defining voice on the right? To pretend that this isn't happening would be naive. Conservative media operates like any other industry driven by influence, attention, and momentum. When a leading figure exits the stage, everyone looks to see who's stepping up to the podium next. There are, of course, already established personalities who've been dominating conversations for years. Officer Brandon Tatum with his law and order messaging, Candace Owens with her provocative commentary and polished media presence, and Nick Fuentes, who has built a fiercely loyal online following. Each has carved out a space and created a distinct brand. But the idea emerging in the background, the one whispered in political media circles and discussed across social platforms, is that the next breakout figure, the next chosen face of the conservative movement, may likely resemble the long-standing archetype that has historically led the mainstream right. And based on current media dynamics, many see Nick Fuentes positioning himself to be that person. Fuentes isn't without controversy, nor is he universally embraced within the conservative ecosystem. But influence is not solely about universal acceptance. It's about energy, loyalty, and momentum. And right now, it's hard to deny he has all three. The rise of any political voice rarely begins with institutional approval. More often, it starts with distrust from the establishment and enthusiasm from the grassroots. That's a pattern seen repeatedly across modern political movements. Still, the story here isn't only about who rises next. It's also about how figures behave in the aftermath of loss, and how audiences perceive those behaviors. Because while Fuentes and Candace Owens don't fundamentally disagree on major geopolitical issues, including their positions on matters like Palestine, their clash isn't ideological in this moment. It's personal, ethical, and narrative-based. Owens has been posting private messages she shared with Charlie Kirk during his life, messages that span months and years, presumably to illustrate the nature of their friendship and affirm the depth of their connection. In her view, this may be an attempt to honor him or to show that disagreements did not erase history, time, or respect. But Fuentes, and many observers with him, sees something very different. To him, and to those who share his perspective, releasing private conversations after someone's passing crosses a line. It shifts the conversation from memorial to performance, from tribute to attention-seeking. When grief becomes content, sincerity naturally comes under question. And so his criticism isn't rooted in foreign policy alignment or political rivalry, but in his belief that certain boundaries should remain intact, even, or especially, in the hyper-competitive world of digital political commentary. Once private words are turned into public currency, the gesture can start to feel transactional. In his view, it doesn't reflect closeness. It reveals a need for validation, a desire to center oneself in a moment that should not be about personal relevance. To supporters of Owens, the post may come across as heartfelt, a digital scrapbook of memories and moments meant to pay respect. But in Fuentes' eyes, and in the eyes of many critical onlookers, it edges into uncomfortable territory, a kind of emotional marketing layered beneath tribute-style language. It suggests that a legacy isn't being preserved so much as a digital persona is being maintained. And this tension, the question of motive, authenticity, and timing, highlights something rarely discussed openly. The conservative media sphere, like every other online ecosystem, is not immune to theatrics, rivalries, image crafting, and strategic public gestures. People build careers on narrative positioning. They cultivate loyalty through storytelling. They secure influence through perception. Kirk's passing didn't suddenly cleanse that system. If anything, it magnified how it functions. This is why Fuentes' criticism resonated with some viewers. Because whether one agrees with him politically or not, he vocalized a sentiment a number of people already felt but hesitated to express. Grief should not be turned into an influencer currency. There is a time to speak, and there is a time to simply sit with loss. And when private moments are shared too quickly, too publicly, and too frequently, they risk feeling less like memory and more like marketing. And in a space where authenticity is constantly questioned, where commentators are accused of grifting, clout chasing, and ideological convenience, perception matters, the timing matters, the emotional tone matters. The line between honoring someone and leveraging their name can sometimes be thin, and audiences today are more perceptive than ever. So yes, the conservative movement is shifting. New voices are rising, older ones are repositioning, and power dynamics are reshaping. And in that transition, every gesture is magnified. Every statement is analyzed. Every post becomes part of the narrative. Charlie Kirk's absence created a vacuum, not only in messaging, but also in hierarchy and influence. Some wish to fill it naturally, through work and presence. Others may attempt to align themselves with his legacy, reminding the public of past ties. And still others will critique those moves, hoping to separate themselves from anything that smells like opportunism. This is not a moral judgment of who is right or wrong. It is an observation of political reality, social behavior, and the evolving landscape of conservative media. Whether one agrees with Fuentes, Owens, or neither, one thing is clear. Moments like this reveal character, intention, and strategy in ways ordinary times do not. The movement, the audience, and the culture are watching, not just to see who speaks the loudest, but who carries themselves with grace, perspective, and integrity when it matters most.
Screenshots of her texts with Charlie Kirk, and the caption is just, she writes, 2018 was such a ride. Charlie went from not knowing the difference between Jay-Z and Kanye to texting me like this on his daily runs. Everyone in politics was fake and gay, but at least we had hip-hop. Oh, come on. Come on. Come on. What are you talking about? Oh, it sounds like she's narrating a movie. Everything back in those days was fake and gay, but at least we had our hip-hop. What the are you talking about? You stupid. This is rough stuff. Guys, this is rough. How do I zoom in on this? So she posts a screenshot. She's doing this, please. It's making me feel bad. I didn't even like Charlie Kirk. And the way they are doing him, it's disgusting. The way that she is taking advantage of this for her own benefit. Talk about milking it. Dude, his udders are chapped. The way that she is milking this tragedy and his death, it's actually disgusting. Posting screenshots of their texts, it's been almost 2 months. What purpose does this serve? Anyway, she posts a screenshot. This is Charlie. In 2018, he sends her a screenshot from his phone. He's listening to Monster by Kanye off of Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. He says, yeah. He says, yeah. He said, and by the way, for those that don't know, Monster from Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, Nicki Minaj is featured on the song. Okay. So the Barbs love this song. He goes, yeah. She says, oh my gosh, Nicki's verse on that is the best. Then he quotes the song. He says, first things first, I eat your brains. She says, yes. Oh my gosh. This makes me so...
Let me break down what's really going on here. Many of you know I had a close relationship with Kevin Samuels. We had our disagreements like any real friends do. And we shared countless private conversations and messages over the years. But here's something important. I never came online to expose those private messages for content or validation. Why? Because private conversations are private. They were said in confidence, and sharing them after someone's gone doesn't prove loyalty. It proves you need attention. So when I see people posting screenshots and personal exchanges with Charlie Kirk now that he's passed, I have to ask, what's the point? Are you trying to convince people you were close? Because let's be honest, if you were really that tight, things wouldn't have fallen apart before he died. Charlie Kirk wasn't prioritizing personal loyalty toward the end. He was focused on business. His goal was the bag, and when that's the focus, everything else becomes secondary. It's harsh, but it's reality. And now, watching folks milk his death for clicks, theories, emotional manipulation, and clout, it's just messy. It's been weeks since he passed. Let the man rest. The audience sees what's happening. It's not a good look. Even people who didn't like Charlie are saying, this has gone too far. Then you have others jumping in with merchandise and fundraisers, claiming the money is going to his family. But let's be real, is it? Or is this just another hustle dressed up as a tribute? If someone genuinely wants to support his family, they don't need to sell shirts for profit first. There's a hypocrisy here. Some of the same conservative voices who criticize drama and opportunism are now displaying the very behavior they claim to oppose. It's no different than the political messiness they point fingers at elsewhere, just happening under a different banner. When someone passes, it's not an opportunity for revenge, validation, or payout because you felt overlooked. If you were truly friends, your relationship doesn't need proof posts or leaked messages. Loyalty doesn't demand an audience, and trying to profit off a person's name, especially across racial and ideological lines, is a dangerous game. Eventually, people see through it. Respect isn't earned by exposing personal conversations or capitalizing on grief. If you're really solid, your bond speaks for itself. No screenshots required. Hold on. Pause for a second. Because this right here is getting out of hand. At some point, we need to call it what it is. This behavior is fake, and it's embarrassing. People love to criticize Black folks, saying we're dramatic or petty, yet look at what's happening now. Some of the very same voices claiming to be above all that are out here doing the exact things they pretend to condemn. When money enters the picture, you start to see what people are truly made of. Principles that seemed firm suddenly become flexible. Moral lines that once appeared bold start to fade, and loyalty, the kind you thought was rooted in real respect, begins to look suspiciously transactional. We've seen this cycle repeat countless times in media, entertainment, and politics. But it hits differently when it's happening right in front of you, in a space that claims to be built on honor, faith, values, and integrity. Think back to when Kevin Samuels passed away. Before the dust settled, before people had time to fully process the loss, merchandise started popping up online. Shirts, slogans, tribute prints, all designed to squeeze one last round of profit out of his name. People justified it under the banner of honoring him, but let's be real, honor doesn't require a price tag. Memory shouldn't come with checkout buttons, and now, seeing it happen again, especially among individuals who publicly position themselves as above the drama, as the refined, principled, respectable side of the movement, it really exposes something uncomfortable. The disconnect between image and behavior becomes impossible to ignore. If you spend your career preaching accountability, morality, and authenticity, yet the moment tragedy strikes you're rolling out limited edition merch and emotional marketing, what does that reveal? It doesn't just raise eyebrows, it calls the entire performance into question. Because here's the truth, you can tell a lot about a person by how they act when there's no applause, no cameras, and nothing tangible to gain. But you can learn even more by watching how they act when there is something to gain, especially something financial. That's where real character either stands strong or collapses completely. And in this space, we've seen too many examples of people folding the second there's a chance to get a check. The sad part? It's not surprising anymore. It's almost expected. In an influencer-driven world, tragedy becomes content, grief becomes currency, and remembrance becomes a branding opportunity. It's not about honoring someone anymore. It's about staying relevant, keeping engagement high, ensuring viewers don't drift to the next personality. And once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. Suddenly, the emotional monologues start looking less sincere. The tribute posts feel curated, scripted, timed for maximum reach. The tears, the hand-on-heart speeches, the calls for unity, they begin to resemble marketing campaigns more than mourning. People will say, "Oh, we're just honoring a friend." But honoring someone doesn't require profit margins. Legacy doesn't need merch drops. Paying respect doesn't demand monetization. If you're truly grieving, the last thing on your mind should be PayPal links and Shopify dashboards. Now, this isn't about calling out one individual or trying to drag a specific person's name. It's about calling out a pattern, A culture where influence trumps sincerity and brand protection outweighs human decency. And that pattern should concern anyone who actually values integrity in public spaces. Because if your morals evaporate the second a dollar sign shows up, you never had morals. You had marketing. We've reached a point where audiences are getting smarter. People can feel when something comes from the heart versus when it's coming from the pocket. Audiences know when they're being emotionally manipulated, when they're being sold a performance instead of offered compassion. And slowly but surely, viewers are starting to wake up to the difference. And that's why this moment matters. Not because of the merch, not because of the tribute posts, but because of what it reveals about the direction the movement might take if nobody calls it out. Do we want leadership built on principles or on profit? On authenticity or opportunism? On true community or influencer culture dressed up as activism? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Anybody can look noble when the lights are shining and the checks are coming in. But when loss hits, when there's grief, when a mentor or peer passes, that's when the real heart shows. And right now, a lot of folks are showing us exactly what they value. And it isn't legacy, loyalty, or respect. It's leverage. But hey, that's just my take. I'm here to speak on what I see. And what I see is a lot of performative loyalty and a whole lot less genuine integrity than people try to pretend. You don't honor someone by capitalizing off their absence. You honor them by living out the standards they left behind. Anyway, that's the breakdown. Let me know how you feel about it. This has been another episode of Celebrity Junk. Make sure you tap that subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications, and I'll catch you on the next one.